There we go.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum here, barely, but we do. So we will start with pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll move on to open forum, public interest. You don't have anything, or?
No.
Okay.
Innocent bystander, Mrs. Manager.
PEA rep.
There you
Okay,
go.
thank you. Number 5, approve agenda changes to the agenda. We will add negotiations to the executive session at the end of the second meeting.
Yep.
Anything else?
Nope, that'd be it.
Declare conflicts of interest, none that I'm aware of.
Oh, we need a motion for that.
Oh, sorry. For the agenda.
For the agenda with
Yeah.
changes.
For number
Also
5.
move.
Moved by Prohl,
Second.
second by Turner. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Conflicts of interest, I'm aware of none. Approve a consent agenda, approve June minutes, approve claims, approve June financial report, approve surplus items, learning resources from New Elm, no longer used. Have a motion to approve that?
I had a question.
Okay.
Craig, I was just curious on our general fund, the cash that we have extra. Do you know about what rate we're getting
The,
invested?
the investment rates? Yes, I do.
Just curious.
Yep. I gotta bring this sheet up though to get the exact last one.
So Craig, just so, item 7 and letter C, the June financial reports, that's something we always typically do as standalone. We've never changed that. So that's, while it's under the consent on this one, so if you wanted to take an opportunity and look at that sheet right there that John's calling in.
We can take it off. and
Yeah,
make a
well,
motion
you can
there.
do it right now
Okay,
if you wanted
okay.
to.
Well, if you just ask,
converse
if that's
about
your
it.
only question, John, yeah, I got that answer here. 1 second. I just gotta get to
Yeah,
my
it's all right.
investment documents.
We're gonna talk about a couple other things on the next meeting. The school lunch program and those things. And the other.
There is no other financial report in the rest of the.
But I think we were gonna talk about.
About setting the school lunch prices was
Ah,
something, yes.
yes.
Yep,
Yes,
yep,
yes,
it was.
yeah.
I
That's
saw
right.
that.
Yeah.
The
And
last,
the action items.
Yes.
in the end of May when I did it, I got May 30th, 4.3%.
On
On,
2 year?
no, I go by number of days because what I do is it's like a ladder deal.
Yep.
And each one is, every month, one comes due.
Okay, so, okay.
Does that make sense?
Is there a total of 12 of them then, or?
I know I don't have a total of 12. It depends. Like we have $1.6 million in cash, so I have. There's usually right now currently there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay.
So when you look at the bottom down here, it says 800,000 in general fund, 400,000 in capital outlay, 200,000 sped. So technically I have 12, 14, I have 7 savings accounts, 7 months worth right now. And it changes because of taxes time. You know, when you have a lot in your checking account, then I move it over there. But taxes come differently now than what it used to. So sometimes you get, kind of narrows down and then you put 3 in at a time, and you know what I mean? So. And we've spent some reimbursements that I gotta get here, so after I get these reimbursements back, I can put a couple more in now. Does that answer your question, John?
Yep, I was just curious if it's, CD rates have come up, so I just.
Yeah. And what he's been doing is, he's been following, we look at South Dakota Fit every time I go in.
Okay.
And he's been looking at that to kind of try to match that as, I mean, so far he's matched it every time.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I will. Okay.
And the ending balance on the capital outlay, I assume is got those reimbursements plus the.
There's a
plus the
little bit of
projects.
reimbursements plus the transfer.
Okay, transfer.
Yeah, because you see on there, the transfer is
Yep.
included already. So there's, I think, we're probably gonna end about 500,000 to 600,000 in the capital outlay right now. But a lot of that is too because of Damien's charges. and Arc Inc. and stuff like that, which money's sitting over there for architectural fees in that one savings account. I just haven't moved it over. Does that make sense? Because part of the capital outlay certificates, they're all sitting in one savings account right now. And we're getting interest on that, but we gotta stay below the arbitrage rate on that one, so it's a little lower.
We can only make so much on that
Yeah. Yep.
financially.
I think that was 3.43 or something like that. Somewhere in that range. It went out 5 decimal places or something. We got as close as we could. And the money is sitting in that right now, so I gotta move some of that over to cover those architectural fees that we've paid all year for Arc Inc. and stuff. Does that make, that's why that balance is lower right now. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Because I do not have those capital outlay certificates shown on this financial. They're sitting in a savings account right now, one of those savings.
So you're feeling good going into our?
Yes, the reason why, okay, so one comparable deal, just so you don't think, ooh, our capital, or our fund, general fund balance went up. You see our ending cash balance is 1.6. Last year was 1.37. I had a lot more reimbursements left to collect last year than I did this year. Like $200,000 more. So there's not gonna be as many accounts receivables in there. And we also lost 50,000 in gross receipts tax somehow from our telephone gross receipts. Santel was down $1 million in revenue. So we only got 50-some thousand in gross receipts tax from the telephone and all that stuff that comes from Todd Bailey at Department of Revenue. Where last year we got 98,000. I asked him, I go, is that correct? And he said yes. So I don't know why there. But the cash balance is higher than last year, yes, but I think our fund balance, based on the receivables and stuff, is gonna be about the same. With that 275,000.
Anything else? Okay.
So we need a motion to approve that.
Motion
Yeah, you're still on 7 then.
to approve the consent agenda.
Yep.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay,
Don't have a
so
lot of choices this meeting.
moved by Prohl, seconded by Turner.
You can second and
Yeah.
motion too.
To approve the consent agenda. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Okay, well, that marks the end of the 22 and 23 school year. I'll accept a motion for adjournment.
Okay.
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved by Leishner, seconded by Prohl. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And that's 6:40. All right.
Okay, I'll call to order the new organizational meeting. Mr. Rooney, I will let you take over.
Okay. I think the first thing is the budget hearing, correct?
Oath of office, which
Oh.
nothing established
That's
quorum.
coming down.
Oh, it is
Yeah,
afterwards,
There's
okay.
no timer on there. We didn't put a time this.
I thought you had that
No.
first, I'm sorry.
Elect, well, I don't think,
All right,
don't
so we
need
got the oaths. Yep. So here you go, Matt. I'll have you read yours first. And then you can sign there.
I, Matt Leishner of the Parkson School District, number 33.3, have been elected as a Board of Education member of the above-named school district in the above-named county, South Dakota. Do solemnly swear that I will support the laws and Constitution of the United States and the state of South Dakota, and to faithfully perform the duties of school board membership, and by filing a bond if required by law, and having it approved.
It's not required, so we don't do
Sign
that.
right here.
Yep, sign right there. Okay. John? Yeah, thanks.
I, John
That's yours.
Prohl of the Parkson School District, number 33.3, have been elected as a Board of Education member of the above-named school district in the name county of South Dakota. Do solemnly swear that I will support the laws and Constitution of the United States and the state of South Dakota, and to faithfully perform the duties of school board membership, and by filing a bond if required by law, and having it approved.
All right. It's official now. I'm stuck for your terms. Okay, now we need to determine president and vice president. So we need nominations from the floor for president of the school board.
I will nominate Jill Nebo, assuming she is willing to take it, which I don't have any reason to believe she's not.
Yeah. Any other nominations? Nominations closed, so I need a motion to unanimously nominate Jill Nebo for president of the Parks and School Board.
So moved.
So,
Second.
Moved by Prohl and seconded by Turner. That way Matt can't get blamed for. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Now we need nominations for vice president.
And I'll meet Matt.
Any other nominations? Nominations closed. I need a motion to unanimously nominate Matt Leichner as the vice president of the Parks and School Board. In a second.
So moved.
Moved by Prohl,
Second.
second by Turner. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Alright, so we are now, I believe you can take back over, Matt.
Number 13 here, conflict of interest disclosures and waivers. The 23-24 school board members will declare any relationships they have with any vendors the district does business with that is considered to be a conflict of interest according to state statute. I am aware of none at this time. Number 14, we will move on to the budget hearing for the 23-24 school year. And I'll give that to Craig.
Turn this on here. I'm gonna move that here.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah, thank you.
You remember how to do that?
I did. Well, he's got to post it on the board first. Can't forget now. Except for it's still not working, right?
Should be.
Well, I had it earlier and it went right to the screen. And now it's... Oh, boy.
We'll figure it out between the two of us.
This is making me mad. We'll try this again.
Craig, we're going to screen sharing to your TV.
See
Okay,
how-
so you're seeing it. That's
Yeah.
your screen.
All right, but now, last time I had this up, and it didn't. There it is, I don't know why it's over there.
There you go.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, but now it's not showing up on my screen. Should be when I had it from before, it was on both, so I don't know what I did. Okay. All right. We gotta go back to the beginning, though. All right, we'll start with the budget hearing here. If you guys want to follow along, those last 6 pages in your packet have a little more detailed by function there. So the first thing here, talk about the totals of the 5 different funds. The general fund, the total budget for that is $5,223,340. The capital outlay fund is $8,494,512 because we put the full project budget in this year. Special education is $993,819. Food service fund is $316,353. And the enterprise fund, which is your driver's ed and preschool, is $77,710. Now, how that compares to last year, before we'll compare the revenue to expenditures first. So, general fund wise, we always have a deficit here. So, but to be honest with you, this deficit is smaller than what it has been in the past.
See that?
But this also has the $275,000 built into already. So this is always on top. But if you look at Last year's was 372 at this time. And that had that 275,000 built in as well. Okay? You see that on the fifth line up at the top under revenue operators, operating transfers in there has been 275 for the last 3 years. Okay? For capital outlay, well, I didn't write that deficit right. I apologize there. That deficit is definitely not correct. It's the, the revenue right now, we have all those capital outlay certificates in there that I'm not including in this revenue as well here. I'm sorry that I didn't get that one correct. But when you look on here, what don't I have? Operating transfers out, 769.
So that's your revenue, Craig.
Right, I think it's just your
You're short.
Is that what it was? Is my revenue? Okay.
You're short on your
So
revenue.
yes, my revenue number's wrong on there. It should be 8486.
So the deficit is right.
Yes, the deficit is correct. My revenue number is wrong.
Yeah.
Based on your sheets in your packet here. Sorry about that, guys.
I see it.
And I'd like to clarify too, so the expenditure of 8494, Craig and I talked about just putting the whole expense of the project, this, in this particular budget, knowing that it won't be all expended. I mean, 'cause we
Yes.
won't be done with the project until the 24-25 school year, because it's gonna be August of 24, that is the projected date. But we decided just to put the whole expenditure, then at the end of the year, you're gonna end up with a surplus in there because
We just-
we hadn't expended it.
And there was no way to guesstimate.
No,
how much
we don't
they
know
paid out, how much we would have paid out at that time.
That'll be just one of the adjustments then at the end of the year.
Well, this way it won't have to be an adjustment because we're budgeting for the whole thing. We
It'll
just
be
won't
money
use all
ahead,
the
yeah.
expenditures.
You'll have a surplus.
Does that make sense?
So we roll that into the next year.
Next year, yes. Yep, and your balance in capital outlay will be higher because of the capital outlay certificates that you haven't spent. Okay. For special education, when you look at that, that's very comparable as far as the estimated use of reserves. In 22-23 it was 37,000 in change, and now it's 43,000. We have been okay in that fund in recent years, so I don't expect any problems there.
And I would clarify that we went from 64 kids on IEPs to 83,
Wow.
and we're still within the ballpark of what we've been traditionally deficit spending in our SPED program, so.
Now, I did not add a whole nother para in there, so if we do need to add another para, we may have to, and then that might be an adjustment at the end of the year. But I did not also, though, take out the one that we lost out of the colony. So that person is in there, we just don't necessarily have a body there yet. I still budgeted for that position. Does that make sense? Okay, food service fund, well, I don't know how, but that one's always, we always make money there, and I don't. Last year, one of the problems I did notice when I was doing my adjusting entries here, one of the, not problems, a good thing, donated foods was an additional $17,000 this, or $12,000 this year compared to the previous year. Meaning there was excess government commodities and favors program money that we used, and sometimes that comes from other schools that don't use it. Sometimes it might just, the state got more money from the USDGA or USDA, and they distributed it out, and whoever wanted to use it could. And we used $37,000 this last year in donated foods compared to 25 the year before. So. And then the enterprise fund, that's zero because we take the money, which is already as part of the transfers out of the general fund and the reason for the deficit there, so. Any questions on that one, expenditure versus revenue? Okay, the next thing then, percentage-wise, well, this is ballooned and changed a little bit from previous years because of the capital outlay. Large portion of our total $15 million budget is due to that. Okay,
Can you go back to the food service ones?
you bet.
Okay.
271. Oh, I didn't get that right either, did I, Matt? I'm sorry. Once again, I must not have changed the revenue columns that should be 263.5, but the deficit amount is correct.
Okay.
Sorry.
I was just
I struggled on that slide, I apologize.
curious why that's so much higher than the other two budgeted years.
Well, because we didn't have as much,
We're trying to spend the money that we.
yes, and we didn't have as much pupil sales last year because of the free lunches. So that's a little, I didn't necessarily put a lot of revenue in there, skew the revenue.
So this is actually one spot where we're trying to
Yeah.
deficit spend. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
So you might, if we did what we did this past year, you kind of plugged that number
See
in
the
there.
local revenue went down a little bit.
Okay. Yeah.
You plugged that number in thinking that we're gonna try and help the kids out with
Yes,
food.
yes.
Got it.
Yep. Because when you look at the local revenue, that dropped that 20 grand there, so.
Part of the deficit then, remember, we can only carry so much in surplus in your food service, so, I mean, we have to, so we should
Yeah.
get that down there. Otherwise, we're third year of the waiver.
Well, I did, okay, so that's a good question too. I got an email from Rob Engels asking about, as long as you are on June 30th, have a positive balance in your food service, you do not have to do the paid lunch equity tool for lunches. So that's how we're allowed to keep the lunch price at it as is without raising prices.
Because we have,
There is necessarily no waiver anymore. You just have a checkbox on the application when I fill out the application for the next school year.
okay, well, that's
Yep.
beneficial.
Yes. We may have to adjust I don't have the PLE tool done because I didn't, but we may have to adjust the breakfast prices, which is very minimal for the number of breakfasts we serve, but, okay? But as going forward, we're gonna start out, when we talk about that later on, I'm gonna suggest leaving them all the same, and then if we have to adjust that, we have to adjust that, but, okay? Any other questions on food service, Matt? Sorry, guys, I struggled on the revenue column of this one, I didn't get it all right. But now this budget is all of those added together there, and then these are the percentages, so as you can see, 56% of that budget is because of our capital outlay project, which is not normal. So this slide's kind of skewed tremendously this year. And this is kind of the trend for the last 5 years of these. And what this is this is the overall budget, so just 5,223,000. As you can see, the general fund's kind of been climbing about the same each year, based on what we get from state aid. Capital outlay is really skewed this year, but SPED is kind of have a little ups and downs. But I believe that one down year was we didn't have some out of district that we were planning on originally, and then they came back or whatever, if I remember. It wasn't as much as we thought it was going to be. Enterprise fund, that one stays. It's hard to read on here because that fund is so small compared to the rest of them to see that $10,000 increase there. Okay, now the mill levies, which are set by the state, and as you can see, they did go up this year, the green year, but those are changed. Part of it was our increase that we did in the capital outlay. But usually we see a downward trend in those because the state it's based on your total valuation, and then they adjust it. But now since we added a little in capital outlay there, it went up. That's why you're seeing that jump rather than a decline. Any questions on that? So here's the total tax request comparison then. 23 in the general fund there. It went up a little bit, but that's because of our valuations went up. Remember, our valuations went from 509 million to 556 or 66 million.
562.
Or 62, somewhere in that range. So it went up quite a few million. That's why there's an increase there. Capital outlay, we went up to 1.3 because now this year's only half. Remember, we're only going to get half of that. So we get the 425 plus half of the 1.3 for this FY '24. So there's a 23 taxes payable 24, but we'll only get half of that amount for this upcoming year. Okay,
So what'd you use for student count or enrollment? count?
I went down 10.
You did?
Because at the time, well, there were 533 or something like that, wasn't it?
We built the budget on
30 something,
30.
low 30s.
534 is what we built it on.
But we've had
Because
some,
we got paid a year ago on 544,
yes.
or in September, it'll be a year.
So basically, if you look at 23, 24 compared to 22, 23, with the revenues being up somewhat, Craig, you think it's most of it's this?
These here, this revenue, you mean the 1.131 to
Right.
1047? No, that is all based off of, this is based off of the change in the valuations only. It has nothing to
Okay.
do with, because these are tax portions only. It's not the state aid.
This is your local.
And the only reason this went up was because of the change in the valuations.
So you have state sources going up. I'm just trying to see, because we were concerned that I thought our deficit might even be worse than this past year, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just trying to figure out where the extra revenue's coming from, Craig.
Well, so the
Back
year
to the general
before-
fund one, on the general fund
So the
here.
year before was 504 on state aid, that was the number.
Okay.
And then this last school year, we got paid on, it was 514 and 544. So you went up 30 kids in your ADM.
Got it.
So when you do the math on that, that was almost the
It's-
equivalent of
yeah.
$180,000
Correct.
in revenue.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It
Which was not budgeted for.
was
last
above
year.
and beyond, because we built it on 514.
Okay.
So that's where that state resources, state sources are.
Budget-wise, we're sitting better than what I thought we would.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Got it.
And it's all because of the influx of kids.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's huge.
Yep.
Yeah, because the 22-23 was built on 514.
Yes.
So, question on the insurance. We had Waxwell Board here last month, and we saw our insurance just
Mm-hmm.
go horribly high. So where's that on this, Craig? I was trying to find it, and you don't have a line item for...
No, because it's broken up into different sections. There's not one line item for that. Part of
Yeah.
it comes out of, they all come out of
Fine.
different places, yeah.
It's dispersed across
Yes.
the different fund
Functions.
accounting. Yep.
There's not one specific line item. No, you're correct, John.
Okay. So I was just trying to find, we overcame that a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, any other questions on these? These other, the special ed went up because of the valuation change as well. I mean, we didn't change, currently I did not change anything on the sped levy. Left it as is. We're not at the max, but we're at that other amount to be able to go to whatever, is it the extraordinary cost fund or whatever? Not that we'll ever have to, but,
Well, and the only way you can go to extraordinary cost fund, which you're in no way, shape, or form.
or no, it's in order to get state aid, I'm
To
sorry.
get state aid.
Which
Extraordinary
we-
cost is you got to be levied to the max, which we'll never.
Yeah. And
I
we,
don't see us get in there.
we don't get state aid either, but in order to get it, if you were, which
You had to be at a
more
certain-
kids, you had to be at that level that we're at. Okay?
So special ed, do you think we're gonna have as many kids this year?
Yeah,
More?
yeah. And in fact, I suspect it's going to grow. Yep. We'll see our December 1 child count from this last fiscal year, where I told you it was 83, the year prior was 64. I totally anticipate that number continuing to grow.
Is that pretty typical of most school districts?
I believe you're probably going to see more of it. And we are starting to identify kids through the child find process that are now 3. So when did COVID start? Right? So the deficits that we had within the school setting in the half year and then even the following year, which most schools did pretty good. And then if you add the mental health component to that concept, we're gonna start seeing, we're not going backwards, I can tell you that. So it's just the tip of the iceberg as to the issues, the concerns academically and socially, emotionally that school districts are gonna be left to contend with. Can I attribute it all to, say, COVID? Not necessarily, but in the absence of any other identifiable rationale as to why we're struggling and these kids are struggling, whether it's academically and socially, emotionally, I mean, that's gonna be the one that we're gonna hang our hat on. So it's not, we're not gonna go backwards, unfortunately. I'm not saying we're gonna grow another 20, but we're gonna see the number grow. I'll be shocked if we're not higher than 83 come December. So.
And John, to answer your question before, when you were looking for the insurances, or the, with Maxwell Board, 2319, that's up 10 grand, that's part of it. Okay, because that's board services, which we didn't change your pay. You know what I mean? So that's 10, and then the other part's a lot of it's under maintenance and plant services.
I saw that line, I didn't know.
That's part of it there as well. But the other thing too is, we didn't know at the budget time last year either, but we didn't have to adjust those line items. So cleaned it up and maybe got it a little closer to there. We didn't have to go up as high budget-wise, and maybe that's why the difference too is lower than what it was before. It might be a little more realistic.
Okay.
Does that make sense? The variance won't be as large. So then this is your 5-year tax dollar comparison then. Just that previous screen in a 5-year picture of the general, how it's kind of went up and down a little. A lot of that all has to deal with just the changes in the valuations with that correction year and stuff. So here's our general fund total expenditures now, kind of based on the 5 areas that are within those functions. And the 100 portion are your salaries. So in the general fund, 3.1 million of them, of our total $5.2 million budget is salaries. And benefits is almost another $1 million. So combined out of the 5.2, almost 4 million, a little over 4 million of it is salaries and benefits. Travel, that does not, that's like hotels and, let me think here. That is the travel for the activities, okay? So part of the busing for that is in there as well. Purchase services, those are your 300s, which are, in the general fund, let me think of what's, let's see, just without looking at the.
Your transportation's in there, is it not?
The student transportation is busing.
No, at the bottom.
I brought that out separately.
Okay.
The purchase services, well, that has to do with your insurance is in there. One of them, one of the big ticket items is your property and liability insurance and stuff like that are part of that. Supplies is just what we purchase for the classrooms and all the activities as well combined there. So those are minimal portions compared to the salaries and benefits. And as you see, the next one is just a pie chart to show that about 80% of it is the salary and benefits, 20% is the rest of the stuff. When you're trying to get a budget down, that's why it's hard to do stuff without getting rid of a person. 5-year comparison of those. As you can see, transportation, of course, has went up because we had a large jump in our busing there. But the benefits kind of 7.65 for retirement or for Social Security and 6% for retirement. I mean your health insurance. That ebbs and flows based on the number of people that take the health insurance, which a couple of them makes a huge difference there. But the salaries has kind of been a steady climb, which is what we want. But the supplies are pretty steady. Purchase services are pretty steady over the last 5 years. So things are going up, but maybe we aren't purchasing as much stuff though either. As far as the supply side of it, you know. Trying to do our best there. And then now at FY '23 anticipated fund balance. Last year we did climb a little bit, so somehow when I did the accounts payables and the accounts receivables and all of those, I was off a little bit. I wanted to try to keep it steady, but based on this year's, somewhere's right around a little under 1.3 is where I anticipated it actually being after the transfer. Because this number, or this last one, the FY '23, is not set. I mean, that's a guesstimate, my best guess. The other ones are all based on the actual numbers after the audit. Okay. And that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions on anything? Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your work.
Okay. We'll move on to approve consent agenda. There's a long list of stuff here. Does anybody have any questions on specific items?
Or something, yeah, that they might want to take off or whatever.
Any concerns, yes,
Yeah.
with A through S.
I had 3 points just to talk about,
Okay.
just more questions or
Okay.
discussion.
Yep.
So, on letter R, the audit,
Yes.
what was it last year, Craig?
10-2 or 10-4? Which one was it?
It seems to me I thought it was around 10. but I-
Now, the reason why it's more too, guys, is because, well, the federal funds we're
Federal
getting,
auditing,
so that's why it's jumped up above 10,000, because you have to have an extra, once you get over $750,000 in federal money, then you have to have an additional component added onto your audit.
Okay.
That's why it's went up the last couple of years, ever since ESSER funds started.
Got it.
But it was, I think it was 10-2 last
Yeah.
year.
Seems to- letter S. So do we, before, if my memory serves me right, we have those 2 pickup points?
Yep.
And there was always a little bit of contention with Trip.
Yep.
So do we still need their permission?
I take the initiative to communicate. The last couple of years, I have reached out, I have expressed to them what we have approved
Sure.
as pickup points. And the only issue was last year at the very beginning because of the one in Trip, Dakota Plains elevators being tore down.
Right.
So we jumped across their main street and went down another block. And then when that was all done, we went back. So when I expressed to them, here's what we decided, if there's any issues, let me know. And they haven't really been contentious on those 2 particular points, so.
You may want to check with them again because I believe there being something else torn down on that
Yeah,
side.
after we do this, I always reach out to, it'll be their new leadership now,
Right,
and tell them that, and if there's anything, I mean, I do it every year, so,
right.
yep.
One year we actually, I don't know which division, but it actually went to an arbitration.
Yep. DOE is supposed to be the moderator, the mediator, and so I don't anticipate any problems, even with the new leadership there, so, yeah. I will say a prayer before I send it to you.
No, I gotta ask the question.
Yep, good question.
B,
B?
letter B.
Yep.
So, I don't know, when was our last pay raise?
You're at the max.
You're only allowed by
Oh,
codified law.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of all these years, I did not know that.
Yep.
Yes.
Unless somebody in,
I don't think codified law's changed.
no, huh?
And to be honest with you, it hasn't changed in my time frame of, it's been 75 at the max ever since I've been a business manager.
Interesting.
The
Yeah.
max though, which you can get paid, not, maybe not what they have been paid, I don't know, I haven't been here.
No,
long enough.
we've been at 75 the whole time. that I've been doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, we talked about that, but
Yep.
we're not at liberty to.
We did take out the wording, the wording of, because of all the project going on for the year, the committee, there was wording of no more than $1,500, maximum of $1,500. We did
We
eliminate
removed
that.
because of what potentially might happen. You may
Special meetings.
have
Yes.
special meetings and
Yes.
stuff, the continued maybe committee, if there's any more of that stuff. So we didn't want to hamstring ourselves
Yeah.
and you guys as far as putting a limit on that.
Yep.
So
Okay.
it's a good question.
I didn't have any.
Okay, Scott,
You've been
anything?
doing it a while.
Okay. I will accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Brolin, second by Turner. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Okay, we'll move on to informational reports. High school principal report is first.
Okay, obviously in the middle of summer and have a ton to report. We got our summer school going on over at our home. We got 4 of our 6 through 12 staff, 2 in June and 2 in July. And Ms. Van Hook is one of the ones that did the June one. She said everything's been going great and that it's really been a positive experience for everybody so far, so that's nice to hear. Our HOSA and our FCCLA did their national trips to Dallas and Denver respectively, and sounds like those were both positive, and we were well represented at both of those. I did get onto the committee that talked about the new state law dealing with dual credit, possibly being a full credit for even a semester class. Basically what it came down to, our goal was to try and find a compromise that they could present to the South Dakota Board of Education. And what they're possibly going to do isn't going to take effect until not this school year, but the next. So I don't think we're going to make any changes this year. Because I think we got to wait and see. I think there's proposals coming to the next legislative session to reverse what was put into play, because I think a lot of schools are unhappy that it's not local control. So I think us putting in anything based off what happened in that meeting would possibly be undone almost immediately. So I think we just wait on the year. We got, we're getting closer and closer. We're hoping to next Tuesday have them in for the pictures and hopefully hand out their schedules. And that would be kind of that first step. That'd give all the kids about a month to take a look at their schedule, see what they like and don't like, and hopefully get in and get it fixed. So we're about to hit our stride here. It's getting close.
So what do you, going back to the dual credits, what do you get a sense on the committee of what direction we're going?
Well, the compromise kind of fell, the one guy kind of joked that it wasn't really much of a compromise, because it kind of fell on our side in terms of, to me, if it takes them a semester to complete the course, we'd like it to be a half credit, because that's what any other semester course would be. So, you're getting 3 college credits, you still just get half credit for high school, because where the trouble I think runs in is if they're getting a full year's credit for something that they're doing in a half of a year, that's going to raise some issues. So the compromise that was presented was anything that was 1, 2, or 3 credits in college. So if you took a 1, 2, or 3 credit course in college, it was going to be worth a half a high school credit. And if you took a 4 or 5 credit course, some of the science courses, for example, might have 3 credit hours plus a lab. Okay, so something like that, then you would get a full credit for. I looked at through this whole year, I don't know if we had a single kid take a 4 credit course all year long. So really, it would, if this ends up being what the compromise is that ends up coming into play in a year, we'll be fine. The compromise was much more on our side than it was not, and so I think we're going to be okay. Good shape.
Change in administrative rule moving for this year essentially is what we're doing. No change to our procedures and what we're doing. And he's right, because I talked to Dr. Graves today, or he presented to our group, and there is probably a legislative notion out there that it will be back. Mm-hmm. It'll come up in the 24 session codified law to be a more uniform and probably a more succinct approach to that. So we'll see if that really goes anywhere, because of that input that you see now, and the compromise was really from the masses. It was from the districts that acceptable. I mean, I don't know that who's really against that at the high school level. There's a few, but not many. More are probably in line with what we are currently doing than rather against it.
It seemed like in that meeting, I found that the smaller the school, the more they wanted the 3-credit course to be worth 1 credit. Like a lot of the smaller B schools that are struggling to have enough staff in-house, they were wanting to be able to put that kid in that class, get them their full science credit, and then move on. But if you were our size or bigger, we were the ones that were fighting for half credit. You know, we have staff. We want them to not be getting credit for something and therefore not signing up for our in-house class kind of deal. So we'll see. I do think too, like, there's a lot of schools that are going to come and try and ask for local control back, whereas we get to be the ones that make the decision of whether or not we offer half or 1, so that we don't feel like we're getting told what to do by the state. I think when the state passed it this year, that they had no idea how big of a hot button topic this really was. It kind of came in under the radar and nobody went and spoke for or against, and so they just passed it, and then everybody was really mad after the fact. And so now it will get revisited most certainly in January and February next year. Did Dr. Graves say anything about the SLOs?
Not.
He did not?
Nope.
Okay. That we heard that there was a possibility that SLOs would maybe go away. He'd told a bunch of curriculum directors that, and then we've heard nothing since, so we don't know what's going on there. So.
And that's your accountability in their ESSA plan. That's their state plan to meet the federal regulations. There has to be something in there for teacher accountability. The SLO is that approach to do that. I don't foresee that changing in this particular school year, so teachers will still have to write an SLO that will, encapsulate or captures their student growth component. So, but I'm not saying
We'll see.
that it won't
Yeah.
come back, but
He had told them at the end of last year they thought he'd be gone by September 1st, but then we've just never heard anything, so maybe it will be, maybe it won't be. We'll see.
he did not reveal that to the 120 soups that were there
It's not,
yesterday.
it's not a done deal yet. Other than that, I mean, if you got any questions for me, but we're rolling.
Is there a schedule for registration yet?
For like
Next Tuesday?
next Tuesday, so, we're just sitting back here kind of talking about discussing it. The idea would be is, you could come in and take your picture at any time, and then we would just give you your schedule, is what it would.
Oh, so it's one-on-one, no group thing?
Yeah, so in terms, like, I know in the past, we've done like where the freshmen would come in and meet, and I talk to the freshmen, and then the sophomores and the juniors. I think we're gonna cover those on the first day of school,
Okay.
just 'cause that way, everybody's in-house, you got everybody, rather than, you get 70% of them, and then you still got 30% that haven't got the message. We'll just give the message on the same day at the same time. And now what I'll do is I'll give a middle school message and then a high school message kind of deal, and go from there, so.
Might not be a bad idea to get that word out, because I know
Yeah.
a lot of people are.
Well,
expecting
part of it is
that
we've
word.
been kind of holding off this week because, as you can see, there's a mess. We were trying to decide if we thought it was still going to be
Yeah.
feasible to still get it done. That's what we're hoping to do. So, but yeah, we're gonna be blasting it out here pretty quick.
The other component that's along with that, I don't know if Adam is going to speak to that or not, but Julie and Tony could probably speak to it, but trying to get a registration portal up through Infinite Campus. So last year when we registered students, we sent it out in a Google Doc. And if you registered your students, it was in a Google format. This year, we're close. I think we're going to be able to get it done in a timely fashion. That's why you haven't heard any communication yet about the registration process. We have to see if this Infinite Campus thing is going to work for us. So essentially, you're going to get information via the website, Apogee. You're going to get it posted. You're going to get it in a text message and an email. How to do this with a video and how to register online. So when you go in and do your registration of your children, it's all goes automatically into Infinite Campus. Last year using the Google Doc, streamlined the process, but then here in the office, we're still sitting there going through every one of those Google Doc forms and then going into Infinite Campus and making any changes that need to be changed. When you guys do it now, the parents, once they do that, they have the link, it'll be automatically in Infinite Campus, and it's the latest and greatest and it's up to date. So miscommunication or anything like that is going to be a result of what the parents either affirmed or changed within the Infinite Campus registration portal. So that's how we're doing that. And today, I think we got to the point where we feel comfortable now that now we can send the information out. We'll have the links that parents need to access in order to up or start their registration process, along with all the forms that we ask them to sign off upon. So we'll definitely, Matt, get that information out via Aptigee, so it's going to be in our live feed. It's going to be a news story. It's going to go out to Facebook. It'll go to our tweet or our Twitter account, and then it'll go to parents' cell numbers, even the kids', and then it'll go to email addresses to everything that's currently in there. So we'll start hammering that so people are aware. Because I know there's questions. We've had phone calls.
Yeah.
Part of it is just we wanted to do this. We wanted to get the online registration, and we've been kind of waiting. And Infinite Campus has been.
Whether we could get it ready by the 25th.
Yeah, it's just a matter of we could turn the tide here and stuff, because we kind of came into this a little bit late. But they assured us that on their end, whatever magic buttons they have to push to get us ready to be able to go live with this, that they can get it done. And Tony and Julie spent time, a couple hours today, and looking at it and doing what we had to do on our side to make sure that it's ready to go. So we'll probably start pushing that out here, if not by the end of the week, absolutely by the beginning of next week. So
Mr. Crippen, where are you gonna park your tent in case your transition isn't ready between the both offices?
We had a discussion on that.
Plan-
The idea
Plan
is-
B?
Yeah, well, the plan B would be is that I stay put until it's time to move. And the idea that, what's gonna be my offices, there's 3 rooms for the special education wing, and so we can house them in the other 2 rooms until me and Peg can actually move, and because we gotta have some sort of a home base. We also have the entire library that could be used for, makeshift classroom if we need. So hopefully, whether it be the day before or 5 days after, who knows when, but whenever we move, that's what we do. Yeah, thank you.
Everyone. Like Mr. Knipling just said, not too much to report on the elementary front. We're just getting things ready to go. Hopefully doing our picture day on Tuesday, the way it sounds. I think we'll have a spot to do that. We've been plan A, plan B, plan C of location on that, and I feel like that's coming together. We've been, getting things organized, ready to go. And that time is coming quickly now, so it's always an exciting time of year. But no real new big developments to report on as far as elementary goes. From the activity standpoint, I did type this up. Last week, we looked at the athletic and activity handbook, and it was asked to kind of clarify a little bit about our guidelines for activities. So I tried to do that. I worked with Craig to kind of take the explanation he gave that night and try to put that into words. But this was kind of the final piece of what, the request on the handbook of getting that approved. So I'm hoping if we can finalize that tonight, I can include that in what we put out for our athletic registration that we used last year. I want that to be a part of what the parents see, as well as, they have to turn in their physical and concussion, and this would just be another facet of that, and having some rules and regulations of what we expect there. So if you look at that and what it says, just that, just read it off of there, that, all high school activity state sanctioned events will receive the school funding for transportation, lodging, and meals. Okay, the significant difference is if they're non-sanctioned club events. Okay, the only real difference that we're not paying for their meals, and there also will be some registration fees that the club would take care of. So that's like your FCCLA or your FFA, those state events. Just to clarify and have that in the handbook if parents had questions. And so I think that's a pretty succinct way of wording it, and it, I think, gets the point across of what we wanted. Any questions or comments on that part of it?
Adam, just out of curiosity, do
Yeah.
you know what other school districts are doing with
I-
that scenario? I'm just curious.
Nope, I don't know.
Okay.
Craig, do you, as far as business manager perspective?
I mean, I know some of them give some money to a even national. Some of the smaller schools give money to
Sure.
a kid if they go to if they qualify for a national event.
Oh, yeah.
That, like I said, mostly, I'm just thinking of my little area group, but there's not very many, most of them are smaller schools. I've never done a questionnaire of asking that. This is just kind of what we have always done, so
Great.
as we wanted in wording and what we've always done and put it in there.
Sure. I have another question.
Yeah.
On this here, part of your handbook,
Yep.
so, I don't know if you guys saw that or not, but you're listing the events.
Yep.
And then it has to do with, if kids are misbehaving and.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So events, I was just curious, so the number of events based on what it is, I get the football with probably 8 games and basketball with 20 games.
Yep.
So with band, where's the 12? How do we get that? Do you know? I'm just
Yeah.
Let me
curious.
see it.
Some of those events,
Yeah.
so I'm trying to think,
I don't know. Wonder if
when
that
you
was
look at, when you look at if they're suspended, how we get those one out of.
That was a typo. Honestly, I don't
Yeah.
know where 12
I mean,
would
they
come
have
from.
maybe
It-
4
Does it
band
have to do with
concerts.
how many, the band concerts, all-state chorus? Pep
This
band
is
deals.
just band, so you have
Sorry, I meant all-state
essentially,
band, sorry.
it could potentially be, that doesn't jive, I was gonna say pep band, but that doesn't fit in there, but you have your concerts, and then you have your region competitions in band and vocal, so we go to Region 5, band and vocal competitions for those
Sure.
kids too. The equivalent of 12, I think that's probably a typo.
Yep.
I would say it's probably more of the essence of maybe 6 total events that would be like state-sponsored, activity-sponsored events that the kids were able to attend and go to. You know, like again, our region
Sure.
contests and stuff.
Sure.
So I think the 12 is probably just a inaccurate, or it's a typo, and that's something we can certainly look into and fix before, you know, we post it out there, that that's, you know, what the governance is on the number of
Yeah.
events, so.
So is this,
Unless it was taken from, I'm thinking, I don't know, if it used to be our
Like-
marching band
Yeah,
days,
where
you
we
know, where I
had-
had an old form that I was looking
I
at.
understand.
And
They
maybe
go
I
to
don't.
maybe 4 or 5 marching band competitions.
Yes.
Yeah,
And they.
Then you might get to 12,
Sure.
yeah.
but they don't do that right now.
We don't do that right now, no.
It's just 2, isn't it, I think?
My suggestion to that, and what past experiences is, we always equated the vocal and the instrumental with the region opportunities that they had. If there was impropriety on the student's part and they violated training rules, then that's where it was applied. It was at the region level. You know, some people say, well, what about pep bands? Well, you know, people question is the validity of a pep band, you know, as far as, does it matter, doesn't it matter? You know, part of it is, what's the right word? I'm trying to be politically correct here, that it's gonna make the student maybe take note and rethink their decision-making process, that some hurt in it a little bit, and if it's important to a kid, especially at the region level, that may have a little bit more impact on them, rather than, oh, I don't have to do pep band, that's fine, I don't want to go anyway, you know, type of deal. So I think that's more of a better place from an application in your handbook to take a look at your vocal and your instrumental, your fine art aspect, is that those are applicable to state-hosted events type of deal. Now, the cumbersome about that, or the difficulty in that is, and I think they're changing their mentality, our 2 teachers, is that that's always been something that kids could pick and choose from too. It wasn't like, I didn't have to go if I didn't want to. Well, okay, where's the penalty in that? You know, concept as well.
So in all state band and stuff, you have to audition for. And not
So,
everybody-
so if a kid's in, and I'm not trying to pick this apart.
Yeah.
So I just, more out of curiosity, because you gotta come up with something, right? And this is ours, right?
Right.
So, so if a person's, that's in the wintertime and they're in vocal music band, basketball, they're in multiple things and they screw up in basketball for whatever reason, or something happens there, can they use the vocal or the band to skip? Okay, I'm just asking.
So the
question.
violation in training rules is applicable to every event or every activity in which you're involved in. It's applicable to every one of those.
Oh,
So that's different than what we've followed in the
Correct.
past.
Correct.
It's applied across the board, and you cannot substitute this for that. So if I am involved in those 5 sports or 5 activities in the fall, John, and I go out and I get caught drinking,
right.
then I'm going to pay a penalty in
In
every
each
one
one.
of those events.
We didn't, yeah, in the past, that has not been that way.
Correct.
And along with that, there's that, you know,
To add stuff.
I get in trouble in the fall, early fall, or, you know, right before school starts, and I don't do any fall activities. I'm just gonna go out for 2 weeks in the fall to serve that, so that I can play basketball or whatever it might be. In there, it does clarify, if you do that, you need to complete the season in good standing in order for that to,
Be applicable.
yes, yeah.
So based off of the, for instance, baseball, there's 2, for first offense, you skip 2 games. Is it based on the number of events?
Yeah,
on
it's
the
either,
first events?
yeah, well, it's 2 weeks or 2 events for your first offense,
Okay.
whichever is greater. That's a state high school league recommendation on that one, I believe.
There is.
Yeah.
So so what you're saying, Adam, then is for wrestling, it might not be 2 events if the 2 weeks is longer. Or no, it might be less than 2 weeks if 2 events were in the same week.
Right,
Yep,
or if you
could
have
be.
like,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Does that make sense, John?
So it's whichever is less than, not greater.
No, I think it's greater.
It's
I'm sorry
greater.
if I misunderstood you. So if you'd have 3 events in those 2 weeks, then you miss 3.
See, I thought it was the other way too.
No. That is a standard operating procedure in training rules across the state of South Dakota. It's the 2 events or 2 weeks for first events, and
So
whichever
basketball
one is
would be 4
greater,
automatically.
whichever is greater.
I mean, you have 2 games a week.
Well, for football, you only have 1 game,
Right.
so if you serve your 2
So you think
your 2 games.
that's, personally, you think that's too severe? I'm not trying to, for the first offense, I'm just asking.
I don't know. I mean, I think that's just what it has, everywhere I've been, that's just what it has been. I mean, I don't know that that's, I think you can make that argument either way, but I think we want to have that line
Make a
of,
statement.
yeah.
And the kids know this. I mean, they get
They
this.
will.
They will, so.
That's why I think it's important that we have this. I don't know that it has been, we haven't had anything in place as far as I could find of a handbook leading up to this point in time.
We've had training rules.
Yeah.
That is
Right.
spelled out in
Yep,
the
like
middle
other-
school, high school
Handbook, yeah.
Yeah.
That's where it was
You
part
know,
of
so,
before. Mhm.
I mean, one of the things here, I think, to probably, once it's in place, it always can be a work in progress, but I know there has been incidents or situations where school districts, because of, they went to a percentage, meaning the difference in the seasons, like you suggest, John, in football, there's only 8 games, that's all you got, right? You know, and then basketball, there's 20. You know, so looking at percentages with respect to violations and what percentage from an equality perspective, you know, that it's equal, you know, that you're punishing football players more so than you are basketball or vice versa, or fine arts or whatever. What is the equitable latitude for violation of training rules to not go above and beyond and you know, punish somebody in a particular activity more so than you would in any other activity? So I think it's a start. I mean, I think with a lot of these things, you beg, borrow, and steal from a lot of different other school districts in order
Sure.
to put it together. I think it's something that, you know, after in August we'll bring back, because that's gonna be, this is second reading, then an adoption. I mean, we can certainly take a look at some of that stuff between now and then. If there's any major changes there, and bring it back and, you know, have that discussion again in August and see where the approval aspect of that is. But, you know, I think that's something we can do, Adam, is take
Sure.
a hard look at.
Some of
you know,
those.
Some of the, yeah,
Yep.
some of that stuff. So-
Is-
And it's valid. I mean, they're valid, valid questions that you have.
Like a situation like this year where we had all these makeup games. Is there something in there with the 2-week deal where
Right.
we had 5 basketball games
Sure.
in 7 days?
Right.
Right.
And that's one where I wonder if.
Is there
this
a,
kinda-
is there a statement in there where you could adjust that? That's all.
Yep, and that's where you get, that's where you
And
get
then nobody's
in
fault.
crosshairs, you get angst and,
Right.
you know, things of that nature.
Kind of that X rule of,
Yeah.
we'll use this, but also we're gonna
Because then it could have been
ultimately
7 or 8 games.
consider all extenuating
Yeah.
circumstances and, you know,
Which as long as there's those, that in there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't read that completely through to see if there was or not. And that, this year was a very unique year with that situation too.
Well, while it was, it's certainly not something that hasn't happened before.
Yeah.
I mean, who's to say we're not gonna have another winter like you
Right.
just had? Because it's not without the realms of possibility, so.
right.
So I see back here, the student signs it.
Yep, so my thought would be, you know, like Mr. M just said, we're maybe not ready after this conversation to approve it at this point, but my thought originally was that I would include it with their fall registration.
Right.
But it'll be something that I'll just have to push out after the fact.
It'll be one of the forms.
That's what I wanted it to be, yeah, but now if it's not, you know, we're not at that stage, then I'll just, because I need to get the registrations in, you know, before sports starts. So this will be something that I'll just have to push out to coaches and get them to have their kids and families sign it, you know, even if we're a month into the season.
So you probably took part of that. Do you think, and I'm just asking,
Yeah.
and maybe it's way overbearing, but do you think parent, I didn't see a parent's signature on this.
Well,
I'm just asking.
yeah, I mean, on my, so like I'm gonna push it out digitally is my plan,
Okay.
you know, so that they would parent and,
Because I can see if something happens,
yeah,
parents can say, well, I wasn't aware of this.
yeah.
And maybe it's.
So that's why it's part of the registration process of,
I mean,
you know,
I
you
get
have
the
to submit
student
your physicals, your concussion dates, your medical clearance, it's your consent to participate, and now this would be a part of it as well.
Sure.
And it's a checkbox. There's a heading that says, I have read the handbook, and then it says, answer the question. Yes, I agree to follow rules and regulations as stated in the handbook. No, I do not agree, therefore I will not participate. You know, so they have that choice, and if they say yes, well, then it's on them that they have read it.
Sure.
So that's the
Um,
parent signature.
That'd be the parent signature. Yeah.
That's pretty, that's how we've always done it, it's typical. Now, do they read it? No, I'm telling you, they don't, but and I've had to defend it more than once. I'm like, well, I kept, you know, here's the deal. Well, I didn't read that. That's not my problem. I mean, if your negligence on your part does not create, you know, an
Excuse.
emergency on mine.
Yep.
You did sign off that you read it, so.
Because just like with, that you're referring to, the training rules, I mean, there's some, you know, chain of command communication that we've
Saw
had
that.
some issues with in the past.
Saw that.
You know, same thing. I mean, we're not gonna, ignorance isn't gonna be bliss, you know, so that's why I think it's important to have. So we have a document to go back and say, no, this is what we stand for, this is how I'm gonna support our coaches, you know, and our advisors, and that's why it's in place. And, you know, I think we've been missing that because it's easy right now for people to kind of say whatever they want to say and then, you know, go after people if they need to. So that's why I think this will be a step in the right direction. I agree. I mean, there's going to be situations where we need to meet. Maybe it's just like our other handbooks. We look at them every year. How can we make them better? You know, it's an evolving document that as we experience things, we'll revise and make better, I think. So, you know, it's not going to be perfect, but it gives us a starting point, I think.
One question I have,
Yep.
kind of a technicality, and I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here, but do we have a junior high anymore? Middle school, right? I'm
Yes.
just saying, I'm just a dumb farmer, I gotta keep my terms straight here,
Correct.
so.
Correct, yes, middle school.
We're trying to get rid of
Yep,
that.
we are trying to get rid of that term, you're correct, yes.
So,
Go back and look at some of that, yep. Okay, so I'll go back to and work on some of those things, and thanks for those questions, I appreciate that. It's helpful to have that, and sometimes you're staring at and miss some of those little things too, so go back and revise and come back again in August. The other thing I have that I wanted to talk to you guys about from the activity standpoint is with our video board, stat board, update on that. So this is where we're at. I've invested quite a bit of time in going around and talking and looking for sponsorships. So we're at a point now, I feel like we have two businesses have agreed to be the top tier, which is a 5-year commitment of $5,000 each year. So we total that's $25,000 from each of those businesses, which is at $50,000 there. And then we have 3 businesses that have agreed to the second tier fundraising or sponsorship level, and those are at $2,500 per year for 5 years. So that is a 5 years, it ends up being $12,500. So when you look at that, we have $75,000 plus another $12,500 is $87,500 committed towards the project. That doesn't factor in, we've talked with Tony and him sharing some of his revenue and sponsorship with Live Ticket. And so over the course of our term, I believe we would pay for the video board. We wouldn't have a profit like originally we talked about if we filled all those sponsorships that we would. We don't have that, but we would be able to pay for, over the course of 5 years, the video board and those stat panels. So wanted to get your guys' thoughts. I've talked with Craig about it. I think he feels good about moving forward with it. Mr. M had the same conversation with him, but it's ultimately your guys' decision on what you want to do. And so I've talked with Daktronics. They have the things in place if we want to move forward with it. But it's ultimately up to you guys and where you're at. I've tried talking to everybody that I can, and this is where we're at right now. And so, happy that we have the 5 that agreed to take this on. Very generous donations, and I understand the businesses that it wasn't a good fit for too. So.
What technically are we short?
We're technically short.
Wasn't it 91? What was it,
You got
91?
Tony's actually added in there?
No, this
No,
does not include
this doesn't
Tony's.
include-
The 87.5 does not include the $1,000 ones along the bottom, or that are not actual spots on the board itself.
Right.
It's the $1,000 ones are the ones that go through the video side of it, correct, Tony?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what right, Adam. They
Yeah.
didn't have spots for those people up there. Those were the things that you flash up on the
Yep, there'll be
video
one big
screen.
slide with all of those. So yeah, that was all separate. So these are just those big sponsors. I think we said, ultimately, I guess I don't remember what I
the
was
big
thinking 100,000.
sponsors-
Yeah,
Leave
Tony
the
to the
video
side.
concept out of it.
Yep,
You have 87,
87.5.
so you are 12.5?
Yes, 12.5 short.
12.5 short.
Yep,
So
Of
of the
100,000.
100,000.
yep.
So the question that I see it is where are we gonna get to 12.5, right?
Correct.
So leave Tony's program out of that for now. You're looking at a situation where it's a one-time investment. I guess I would, put it to the school board that, you have reserve funds in your capital outlay, that you could direct towards fill the bucket in order to get there, if that's something that you're so inclined to do. I'm not saying that's what you do, I'm telling you, that's one revenue source that you could take a look at as a school board to get to that point and move forward with it if that's something that you desired. Craig, you got comments on that? No?
Remind me
agree or
again.
disagree?
Remind me again, that doesn't replace the whole scoreboard, right? It just adds on to the sides, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
And it
And
gives us
the video
the
screen.
big video board.
Okay.
Yep,
That'll be a new entity in
Yeah,
there.
correct.
Getting rid of that one that just sits up there right now on the wall and doesn't.
Yep,
It's just the one end. It's not
Yeah,
both
yeah,
ends.
yeah.
yeah,
And same with the staff boards.
yep,
Is that one end, right?
correct. Yeah.
What's the timeline, Adam, when you talk to Daktronics? I mean, let's just say,
I think we're probably looking into December, or, best case scenario right now.
so within the next month, we get them $100,000, right?
Mhm.
Then by January, potentially, maybe that could be
That would be the hope if
implemented.
everything goes,
It could be implemented.
that would be the hope if everything goes like perfectly, yeah.
Right.
And we pay it all up front and then just recoup the income as it comes in.
As
Mhm.
year by year, yep.
Mhm.
And then if it lasts longer than 5 years,
Well,
then after that, it's all.
I
Right,
would hope it'll last longer than 5 years.
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so that's the other thing too,
Mhm.
that Craig and I have
You just
talked
didn't pay for
about.
it as fast as.
Yeah,
And who knows, next year you might have another fourth tier person,
yeah, that wants. to
once they
jump
see
in.
it.
Was gonna
That's what I
say,
was saying,
you can
yeah.
always add on, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
yep. And that's Craig and I said too, after that 5 years you have it paid for, maybe it's less to
Yeah,
you
come
know,
up with a
renew,
different
'cause
amount.
now,
Oh,
It's your expenditure neutral though.
Yeah.
You, over the 5 years, other than what I'm telling you, you're short now, the 12.5, that would be potentially your investment in that, 12,500 over 5 years, but the rest of it eventually is gonna come over the 5 years. So what did it cost you to do that? 12,500 if you were willing to fill the bucket that you're short.
And that's
right now.
about what those side deals were anyway.
yeah, a little less than.
Yeah, not much less
Which
than
we,
that.
yeah,
Well, even over 5 years, just extend it 1 year, 6 years and knock the tiers down a little bit and then
Yeah.
that's no issue there.
right,
So,
then it's, yeah.
I have no issue with it, I guess, if we're gonna continue to figure out how to fill that 12,500 gap. But
because we wanted originally 5 of each, right?
We wanted 4 of the top level
Okay.
and then 6 of the bottom was
Okay.
originally what we were shooting for, yeah. Yeah.
Are we in a position, Mr. Rooney, to write a check for 100,000 to get it going? And then knowing that we just approved it, we're looking at a budget here, it's not something that we put in as a line item in there.
No, I think I did have it in there.
I don't know, that's why,
I think I did.
and I understand we don't get it all back in one fell swoop in
Mhm.
one fiscal year, but.
I am pretty sure that was in there.
Okay. So your expenditures reflected that
Mhm. Yes.
purchase of that?
Yes.
Okay.
Anybody else, any thoughts?
I'm in agreement. I think it's a great idea. And I think, so once people see it up, I think the money will come in. See how good it is and what it can all be used for.
There's one other opportunity too, Adam, that you and I talked
Mhm.
about. That organization's a little busy right now,
Yeah,
but once we get, we'll probably maybe have you step there and talk. to
okay,
them.
yep, absolutely.
So,
Thank you for all your time.
Yeah,
I think it's something, if you're gonna, you need to, the expenditure of the dollar amount of what you're expecting here, well, he brought it up, it's something that if you get noted right here, that you make a motion and a second to make the approval for the expenditure.
Okay.
If you really wanna move forward.
you didn't have any?
Yeah, I had it in there.
So you had it budgeted for it.
Budgeted, and then when I
Yeah.
presented, that was part of it already. Yep, that 195 or 100,000. I had 95 in there.
That may be what in my mind, I was just always thinking, because if you add them all up, that's what it would be, is 100,000, so that's
Yeah.
what I was operating off of.
Okay, I will accept a motion to proceed with the scoreboard project. Do I need to be more detailed than that?
It's fine.
So move.
Moved by Prohl,
Second.
Second by Turner. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
All right, and that's all I got. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam.
Okay, superintendent report.
I just, little update on the teacher pathway program that we've been talking about the last couple of months, but we were fortunate enough, I would say we were fortunate enough, we had 2 individuals fortunate enough to be accepted into the teacher pathways program. So these are individuals who are paraprofessionals in our organization, in our school district, that will be given the opportunity to go back to school, essentially almost free of charge, and get a teaching degree. So congratulations, and it was Christy Bieber and Christy Zebart will both be pursuing that opportunity, and we've identified mentor teachers for both of them to help with that process, and I anticipate that maybe within a year they might be finished, but if not, it's a 2-year program. Our commitment as a school district to assist them and be part of that program. Those 2 individuals have to invest $1,000 of their own money, and the school district in support of them is investing $1,000 each. So that potentially $2,000 per year for over the 2-year span of time in order to help those people fill the gap. Just a side note on that, part of our speakers today on my superintendent's meeting out in Pierre, Doug Wormerdahl, who is now the new Associate Executive Director of Associated School Boards, he got a couple highlights, and one of the highlights that he gave today is that as of today, there's 319 teaching openings left in the state of South Dakota as of right now. So, and we're a month away from school. And a greater majority of those are in special ed and elementary ed, if you can believe that. So it's a good thing, you know, and I think these 2 will be successful in their pursuit. So that's all I got for you. That's all I need.
Mr. M, there was
Yep.
60 spots available on that.
Actually, so the new numbers on that, because of the number of applications they got, Mr. Pro, they ended up with 300 people applying for this program, and they extended it and approved 90. So there's 90 people that are going to be involved in this pilot program for the next 2 years. And the decision to open it up and continue the program is going to be evaluated in December after the first semester of these 90 people to see how things are going. The money to help pay for that is the governor has a vast interest in internships and apprenticeships, and there's a pot of money that she has in the state budget for those types of, and this is certainly something that Dr. Graves and the DOE felt that is worthy and could be utilized there, so that is where they are hanging their hat as far as the financial resources in order to help these people do what they are striving to do. So, you know. So yeah, I think it maybe was a little more overwhelming than they thought as far as, I don't think they ever thought they'd get 300 people to apply. So, and it was hard. I think the greater majority of those people were people who already had degrees. And these 2 individuals, Christy and Christy, they both have 4-year degrees. So it's going to help them streamline and expedite the process. So that's all I have for my stuff. So.
Okay, we will move on to discussion items. Item A is review policy manual. This will be the new set of policies as printed in the agenda. Were there any questions on there, mainly pertaining to superintendent expectations and qualifications, I guess you would say?
I had one question on superintendent.
Which one? Policy CBA?
Yeah.
CA?
CBA.
CBA, got it, yeah.
Qualifications for the superintendent. And it indicated 3 years in teaching experience and 3 years in school administration, totaling 6 years to qualify. So we're talking, I guess what I was thinking here, what we're saying here is that for a person to apply, if an opening would be here for a superintendent, we'd only accept people with that they need 3 years of each.
Yep, that's what you're saying by your policy.
Right.
Does it say down there a few lines, if I remember right, that we, the board would, maybe, I don't remember.
Number 4,
Review
such
exactly, or-
yep, such alternatives to the above qualifications the board may find appropriate and acceptable. So such alternatives.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of wiggle room there. If you do so choose as a school board, based on what your policy says, is there an out? Yeah, there's an out.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I was thinking of one of our candidates that we had when Mr. M had applied with other people, didn't have.
Mhm.
They were just gonna finish their superintendent degree and didn't have 3 years of superintendent.
Well, that didn't say superintendent, it
says
says
administration.
administration, so principal would count on that.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, I'm
Yep.
sorry, then I misinterpreted.
Which, yeah.
So 3 years of experience in
That's the
school
way I read it
administration.
too, Matt.
Yeah, 3 years of experience in school administration is typical that you've worked as in a principalship
God.
at that point in time. So, but
But school administration could mean high schoolers, elementary.
Absolutely.
Principal.
Yep.
Is what we're saying.
could even be a
That's the
special
way I read it,
education
yeah.
director as well, because they're considered to be in some respects admin. So
Okay. I was misinterpreting.
there's some, you have latitude within the policy to either diverge or divert from what you have there based on, because let's be honest with you, there's a shortage of administrators too. So, yeah, absolutely. You find yourself in a situation where, I mean, there are a handful of school districts right now are who are employing superintendents that do not have 3 years of administrative experience.
I know one of our area.
Yep. So, according to this, would it be prohibitive as you as a school board? Nah, I mean, it's not idea. You're saying what you expect, but you do have the ability to deviate from that in light of what your candidate pool is too. If that's what potential concern is, that you're, kind of, don't spite, don't cut your nose off to spite your face.
And that's
right?
where I was going. I mean, I didn't.
Hamstring yourself like, what? We can't do that. Well, if that's all you got, that's all you got, type of deal. Do I ever anticipate that in a school district this size? No, I don't. I mean, some of the smaller schools, that's what they're doing. They're struggling.
I know there.
Yeah. So, but it's a good question. So, anything else on
So
the rest of those? You got the superintendent, that's the job description, and then the next one, CBB is recruitment and appointment of a superintendent, and then CBC is your superintendent contract compensation and benefits, but those are all things that right now we're abiding by within practice, that things that you do, so.
There's kind of a similar statement in the compensation part where it said, including life insurance and annuity programs, but it says that will be determined at the time of employment. So that was kind of a broad brush again, but it was
It's allowing you that
modified
opportunity if you
again,
need
yeah.
it to
Yep,
hire a
absolutely.
candidate.
Well, you're in a situation, I mean, we get to that point, if you ever get to that point, you have to do what you have to do.
Yeah.
Right.
And deviate, and I believe within the policy, and again, remember, this is coming from your parent organization, Associated School Boards, is that there's caveats to it, and it's not just your handcuffed, that, we can't do that. I think there's support written in there for you as a school board to deviate when necessary, so. I think that's the threshold that you're striving for.
Sure,
Yeah.
I understand.
Good. All right, nothing else in the first reading. We will move on to the second reading of the policy manual. It would be BFC, BFCA, BFF, BHAA, and BHD. That was the second reading of those. Any questions on those? Okay, there's nothing there. We'll move on to the third and final reading of policy manual letters B, D, 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 B, D, D, E, B, D, D, F, B, D, D, G, B, D, D, H. Too late to suggest we just change these to numbers, or?
The whole point would be aligning with your parent manual, and they do not use numbers, they use letters.
Any questions on those?
Shouldn't be, so.
So that is the final reading. I'll need a motion to approve.
Yep, you do.
I'll second.
Moved by Turner, second by Leishner. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Motion carried.
Okay, update on the building projects.
The two components here, I'll address the heating, ventilating, air conditioning, project that's going on right now. We find ourselves in a situation, with, essentially 10 days before the end of July, that out of the project, and the 57 units that were supposed to be retrofitted, outside as well as inside, there's been a total of 18 of those completed, and there's 3 of those that are left yet to do some touch-up things where, and they're ceiling units. So essentially, there's 40 plus units that have yet to be addressed in the project. So it's my recommendation, and it has been part of the conversation. I took the initiative based on where we're at in our timeline to suggest to ACE, our electrical engineer on the project, as well as Paulson Sheet Metal, who is the contractor in the project, to finish what has been opened up and started within our high school footprint and our armory and our kitchen and our cafeteria area, and wrap that up. We are no longer going to proceed this summer with anything that is essentially to the south of that. So we do have 3 classrooms in this wing over here that will not be addressed, and we have the rest of the footprint of the elementary that will not be addressed moving forward in this particular school year. Because Craig and I looked with, or had a conversation with the Department of Ed, we're in a situation where we're federal money. The ESSERS project, or the ESSERS dollars, paid for 1.5 million or 1.6 million dollars of this project. We have until September of 2024 in order to expend those dollars. So right now the plan is moving forward is that the Climate Systems has essentially all of the control aspect and the wire ran in order to do what they need to do when it comes time to make the retrofit. Mitchell Plumbing and Heating has done their part of the project and got it to the point where they're just waiting on some finishing touches on the sheet metal side of things and the installation side of the things of the actual cabinet heaters on the inside, as well as the AC unit in the armory, the AC unit in the kitchen, and the AC unit in the cafeteria. But once that is completed, we should be in a good situation where Paulson Sheet Metal can continue to work within the MPR setting, because all the work that needs to be done there is up in the, okay, what do you call those areas up there?
In the where?
In the NPR. With those two.
I don't know. Yeah, storage.
You got the stage and they're up in the corners up there. So it's not impacting, it's not causing any disruption to the educational process if we do have to start school. So that was one area I felt that they could stay on the job on and get that to a point of finishing it up. The other area that is going to be considered after that, early on in the fall, is going to be the National Guard area. Again, minimal work to be done there. A lot of it's on the roof that needs to happen there, and it's more of a control and electrical component than it is anything else. So that's where we're at. It's not idea. It's not anything that anybody wanted to have to deal with, including the contractor. I think the bigger part of the problem throughout the whole summer has been making sure that the contractor had viable, employees. And it doesn't sound like that was, something that would have, they fell short on it. We expected more of that. So, and I've had those conversations face to face with the engineer as well as the contractor. So there's nothing we really can do about it at this stage of the game other than the plan is to finish up, a year from now. That's next summer. And we do have the latitude financially in order to do that. So, it's not like I just want you guys to know that I don't know, Craig can probably attest to it, but I think I've done due diligence to try to, I haven't been sitting on my laurels and just sitting here watching this thing, without having conversations, without having meetings, without, having some face-to-face, like, trying to hold people accountable. But bottom line is I can't go do the work myself. So we find ourselves in that situation. I think the word is out. I kind of let some of the elementary know what that setting, what's going to happen to their setting, and it is what it is. So they're ready to go. And I think that's the most important thing. They feel, that's the angst that they're like, what, is this going to happen? I got to get in my room. I want to get ready for school, which I totally support and totally understand. Therefore, that was my reasons and rationale to reach out and say, you know what, you're done. I'm not going to do this anymore. We don't have time. You demonstrated you're not going to meet the timeline on this, so, this is where it is. Therefore, it wasn't about point and blame. It was like, how are we going to finish what's open so we can start school? Close it up, wrap it up, so we can clean it up. And staff has done a great job on that in order to get ready for school on August 17th, and especially when teachers are really truly in the building, expected to be back on August 14th. But we all know they'll be here. In fact, I don't know, I think I saw 3 of them here today. So, so that's where we find ourselves on the HVAC project. Comments, questions about that? It's not ideal, I know, I understand. Building, the building project. I think the outside, essentially, it's a little off pace, and part of that is because of the recent rains that we've had. At one time we had like 4, and then we had another inch 70, and I think another time we had another 70, and maybe another. So Barcher did here today. He poured. I think there's only a small portion of the footings in the retaining wall that's left. So that'll hopefully get things back on pace. The outside is not my concern, and I've expressed that to Pitts as well as ARC Inc. We have another construction meeting tomorrow. It's the inside. It's Mr. Knipling's office. Again, there was not dragging feet on purpose. It was just the process that they were going through with some of the changes that we made. I included the cost estimate on the change order that we did ask them to do. And that ship sailed, and if we're going to meet the timeline, which we're in jeopardy right now of meeting the timeline, the costs are what they are. So people are concerned on it. It's public knowledge, that change order is going to cost $140,000. I will tell you this, that my intention is to have a conversation with Pitts Construction on their portion of that total cost. Makes my head scratch a little bit, so I'm going to try to hold some feet to fire on that and find out what is all included in that price. I get the other ones. I think they're pretty straightforward. I'm not exactly sure what their number is, so I will have that conversation with Pitts Construction tomorrow, as well as ARC Inc. So the timeline on that, the cabinetry, I've been told by Pitts Construction that goes into the office, and that would be mostly pegs, new desk and countertop, and some of the cabinetry that goes behind her desk in that particular classroom, as well as some things that go in the workroom. That is new cabinetry. That is slated right now as to arrive on August 11th. We start school Again, teachers 14th, to kids on the 17th. So, therefore, you guys asked the question about Plan B for Mr. Knipling's office. There's no way to, I have no place to move him. He suggests the library. I suggest probably not. Just because of, we're running short on area and space, and we have several pieces of cabinetry that we are going to put back into classrooms. Those two particular areas that we're reusing, I may have to have a place for them, especially if the flooring's not put down in time. You know, so we're already probably dumping in on that high school library space more than we wanted to. So, is it going to be done? No. I mean, that's just my guesstimation. I could be shocked, I could be surprised, but I'm anticipating that not happening. Have I expressed my displeasure with that in past construction meetings? Very much so. But, you know, when you're dealing with subcontractors and every facet of what needs to be done down there, rather than just a general who does all of that, which they don't, then, you know, they're putting pressure on those people and trying to get them here to do the things that need to be done. It's not uncommon in the construction industry. You guys probably already know that, but it's frustrating for sure. It's been a stressful summer, and I'm not looking for sympathy. That's part of the job. I get it, but I do want you to know that I've tried to make some people uncomfortable as well as they've made me uncomfortable, and not intentionally, not in a manner in which I'm coming across, you know, as bullish or anything like that, other than having critical conversations, and, you know, let's have some accountability here. So that's where we're at in the building project. The completion date on the HVAC project, I told him that by the end of this week he had to be out of there. Well, I don't think that's going to happen. I'm hopeful by the Wednesday that there's a few things on the armory that is got some plumbing things to do yet to hook up those condensing units to the coils. And it looks like to me that's all it's about, and the people I talked to today kind of affirmed that. And then next week we're going to take a look at the MPR, and I got places to clean up, we got floors to wax. So we're going to probably try to tear into the MPR next week for as far as prepping and cleaning and getting it waxed, and then we'll let them finish by Wednesday, and then the following week we will tear into prepping and cleaning of the armory, and that's going to be void of, you know, a duct sock that's in there. So the duct sock is on order, which the mistake on their part for that did not show up and didn't realize it till now. So we're 4 weeks out from that process. Doesn't mean the unit can't run, we just won't have that duct sock in place by the time the school starts.
One end might be cooler than the other.
Yeah, it's gonna blow, I think. So there's a big hole up there in each on the north end. So I'm hoping, and I did put in my conversation today that this will be done August 25th, period. The armory, because we have our volleyball tournament
here.
action is that Saturday, August 26th. So, questions?
On the change order, that just deals with moving the teacher workroom from classroom A to classroom B.
And it was also the greater portion of that. And again, that's where, you know, I erred in this too, man. I fell on my sword in the design of this, because if I would have questioned harder, you know, it was the conversation when we were designing this thing is, okay, we'll just move the workroom to that extra class, the other classroom across the hallway. Without any grave thought as to what was missed, meaning what was coming out of the current workroom, and mainly a restroom facility, and the other one was a cabinetry or a kitchen net aspect where the teachers can do their lunch component and use a facility that's not, you know, available to students,
Right.
Type of deal. So, while it was that change order was inclusive of that particular workroom. There's nothing on the other side of that in Mr. Knipling's office
Right.
that was included in that. That was total in that workroom. So it's the demo, it's the electrical, it was the plumbing, which we had to,
Which I understand the plumbing.
Yeah.
I guess one of my biggest questions is the heating and ventilating.
That should have already.
I mean,
been.
that would have been in there no matter whether it was the same workroom or not, right?
yep, so the HVAC concept, here's what happened there. When this goes back to Mr. Knipling's room. So when that was a classroom, when Mr. Huber was in there, it was a wall cabinet. And it had outside air to the south side. Okay? In the design of that, okay, then the whole concept there was replacement of that HVAC cabinet heater. No place in the office to put it on a wall anymore because of the design of the office. Has to go in the ceiling. So within the ceiling, in order to get it, the unit to fit in the ceiling, one, it had to sit below what was current ceiling grade level. So then it has to build a soffit around that in order to capture it or encapsulate it. You know, so you'll see a soffit in there. The other part of that was the plumbing that had to be done, repurposed, repositioned, because now it had to go overhead because it's no longer on the floor. That necessarily wasn't accounted for. And the other part is the outside air return. That had to be accessible.
This is in Mr. Knipling's
Mr.
office.
Knipling's
So it
office.
has nothing to do with the change order.
Yeah, it did. Part
But
of
it
that.
was their miss, not our miss.
Exactly. But
And
now it had to go out, we have to duct that stuff to the outside, to the south wall, in order to make that work.
And what they missed was they didn't pay attention to the pitched roof. They thought it was a flat roof, so they thought it was going to be easy. Correct,
Yeah,
Mr.
they're just
M?
gonna pipe it,
The
and
ACE engineering or whatever.
get
when they
outside
did it.
air up and then,
Yeah.
you know, duct it up through the ceiling.
That's what Jake said.
Well, the ceiling there isn't just a flat roof, it's got a pitch on it.
So what
And-
they have listed here for the heating and ventilating is actually for the office.
It
the
is.
Principal's office.
It is. Yep.
So other than we were getting some stuff by August 11th, you said, Mr.
The cabinetry.
Yep.
So, are we, that's a little issue, but is a holdup that just isn't enough workers or time or whatever needs to be done? We're behind on what needs to be done.
Yep,
HVAC.
the whole change order process put us behind, essentially about 3 weeks.
See, I don't
Part of it
understand.
was-
part of
They
it-
just
part of it-
stopped on the office because they didn't know what they were going to do? or
He's- yeah, he's-
The
There's no
HVAC
reason they couldn't
project,
have.
the HVAC portion of it was what the hang-up was.
Yep.
That wasn't our problem.
Nope. And how to find outside air, return that. And part of it is the process here, what I've learned in this is that goes through an RFI, so it's a request for information. They'll send that out to the architect. The architect sends it out to the engineers. They look at, okay, how are we gonna do this? How are we gonna do it differently? And that whole process, you know, and next thing you know, you're 2 weeks into that before you get an answer back. Then when you do that, that's where I had to get involved and say, listen, what are we waiting for here? Well, one, we're waiting back for information as to maybe how to go about doing this, what's the best way, and the other one is don't you want to know what it's going to cost? And I'm like, yeah, I do, but it's irrelevant. If we're going to sit here and wait until you tell me and you get all your numbers back from all those subs that you just saw on there, because I just got this a week ago, and the last number just came in a week ago. Were we supposed to sit here? And that's what I'm telling you guys. I'm not sitting here until you get all these numbers back, and then you give me a number to turn around and tell you, well, we don't like that. Then what are we gonna do? The ship sailed when we went in there the first day and gutted it. There was nothing we were gonna do about it. Now, can we have some conversations about the total cost of it? That's what I plan to do.
I guess my other question on the cost, the 50,000 for the rough carpentry, I hope that's a lot of cabinets, or, because there can't be
That's my question.
there can't be any framing to do in there.
Not in the teacher's workroom, there isn't. There was a little bit, because we had to frame out the wall in the bathroom, okay? The photo lab that we turned into a bathroom. We had to furrow out that wall. All the plumbing stayed in there. And then where we're gonna put a kitchenette, that had to be furrowed out on one wall is all. That's all there was, as far as that. and that's included in their price because they have subs that do that. So that's the metal studding, that's the sheetrock, that has to be in place in there. But all the other components, the subs, the mechanical, the plumbing, the electrical, they all have their own bids in there.
Right.
So my question is exactly that. What? And that tomorrow's my meeting. I'm gonna.
And that's more than every other one.
It's more than any of them
By a lot.
by a lot. So my question is what does it entail?
Because they get the plumbing when they have to dig through the hole. Or
Yeah.
That was the plumber's bid.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Now I will take that back. There was some cost in there from rough construction because Diamond Dave had to come and saw all that joint out of there, and that is in their side,
General
in the construction
Not-
side of it, not in
Plumbing side.
plumbing side. Their job was just that's connecting all the pipe and running the new pipe. So there was that component in there too.
That's probably.
But yeah, still. And Diamond Dave cutting the hole in the wall between the two. And then JD Masonry framing up that hole in the wall so the door can fit in. But there again, that's a standalone. If you look, it's in there. So that's my question. Why? Justify the number for me, please. That's what I'll ask tomorrow. So.
Okay, does anybody else have anything else before we move on?
So again, you'll know more tomorrow, but if basically we're just 3 weeks behind, so we're probably, unless they jumpstart stuff, we're probably looking at the end of August.
That's my projection, quite honestly, to the point where Mr. Knipling can get in there. Because once that's done, I'm gonna have to go in and clean it. And then once I move him, we're gonna have to clean his space. So till everybody's settled, the dust is settled, and we're functionable, and we'll be functionable, but we're gonna move into that high school in the midst of a little bit of chaos and disarray, and the I'm going to tell you right now, the cleanliness factor in that end is going to be probably on the atrocious side.
Challenged.
We'll get it in. It will be a challenge. I mean, we'll get it to the point where it's respectable, but it's not going to look like it's looking like down
What was the
here
date of the flood?
because I won't have time.
Ooh.
The staff won't have time.
Got the
Sure.
Yeah. It was in July.
So we flooded half the building in July a couple years ago, so,
I think it was July or last week.
When your lightning struck.
yeah, so.
Do you remember what?
But I think you started that year in chaos too, if I
We
remember
did,
right.
but we got it done.
Yeah.
Was it June or
Yeah, that
July?
was June. End
Was
of
it
June.
June?
End of June?
Tony, you recall?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, I don't remember the actual date.
I don't remember the date either. I think it was end of June.
Okay. Anyway,
But that was a mess.
yeah.
And a very unfortunate time,
Yeah.
for sure. This is frustrating because there's a schedule in place, and you know,
You gotta be curious.
and I feel bad. I honestly, I do. It makes my stomach crawl because I'm in the situation we are. But part of me, I don't know what else I could do besides acknowledge my own mistake on that and fall on my own sword and call myself a you know what. But and if I would have did it on the onset, we would have had that in the plans from the get-go. You know, we probably wouldn't be sitting here spinning our wheels. I don't know. It's picked up in the last 10 days. It truly has. I mean, there's stuff moving. It's happening. It's just whether it's going to be enough time to get to that point. So.
Okay.
I'd say item 5 there, Matt, under 17 there, we already kind of addressed the greater portion of that, unless you had something with
5 under 17.
Yeah, under your, well, just 17. So number 5, order letter C.
Letter-
So your handbook changes. A greater
Oh,
portion
yeah.
was that was.
Yeah, does
Unless you had
anyone else
questions about Mr. Fisher or Mr. Knipling's handbooks.
have any questions on the handbooks, elementary, high school, or
You talked about athletic.
academic or activity?
You know.
Okay. Move on to action items. Committee appointments.
I will revert to Craig on what those committee,
Oh,
who
yeah,
was
I got
on
'em here.
those last
Yes, I
time,
got him here.
just to give you some
Sure,
information.
we're
And
open again, I'm sorry. There it is.
those are more appointments than there are anything. You guys agree as to who does what on those particular.
Okay, last year the appointments were, Jill was the delegate, Jed was the alternate to the delegate. Jill was on the calendar committee, John was on the representative, was the representative on the Board of Equalization. Matt, you were on the James Valley Co-op Board, Scott and Matt were on the Building and Grounds, John on bid opening, Jill on personnel and activities, and Jed on curriculum.
Anybody need any changes or leave them as is?
I'm good with mine.
Okay,
So I'm gonna say Vice President Leishner and appointments, right?
sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, we will move on to setting activity prices.
Currently, it's $3 for students outside of Parkson, and then $5 for the adults for swim game, 4 and 6 for double headers, 50 for adult activity passes, and 30 for the adults over age 65. And all Parkson K through 12 will be allowed to attend the Parkson events free of charge.
And you're recommending keeping them the same?
We didn't have anything, we didn't have any changes to that, as long as you guys are okay with that.
Anybody have any opinions, leave them the same?
Okay, we need a motion to approve that. Moved by Turner,
Second?
second by Leishner. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Just out of curiosity, do you think our attendance improved? As far as kids in general, getting in free? I'm just asking.
I could say maybe there was
Littler kids, maybe.
a handful that were there more regularly than
Yes.
probably wouldn't be there regularly. More as maybe a place to hang out than
Yeah.
to actually cheer, but yeah.
So accomplished our goal.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah, you got more, backsides in the seats, especially from a kid perspective, for sure. And, it wasn't like those little kids, they actually do a pretty good job of, I'm always surprised as to,
Sitting together.
yeah, how well they do, so then it's not like they're constantly causing grief either. I have less consternation about the little kids, the more than I got, or less than I got the big kids, type of deal.
Other than popcorn spell here or there, other than that,
Yeah.
it's been pretty good.
No, but I would
But the little
agree.
ones.
It's probably gotten more kids to the events. Now, the only thing that's probably concerning there is I drop my 10-year-old off and I got to babysit him. Or Adam's got to babysit him, or Cole's got to babysit him. That's not the intent. They're not coming with their kid. But I can live with that. I can correct a kid. And it would be different if they were sprinting, doing wind sprints up and down the sideline every 30 seconds, but those little kids are really pretty good about that, so.
Okay. We'll move on to set school lunch prices.
So I told you about the email that I got here from Rob Engels, which he says, when completing the annual information update checklist item in the ICANN application, you would indicate 2B your school had a positive or zero balance in the food service account as of June 30th, and then record the account balance from the date. And that's what I got to do on my application rather than, and then it says PLE exemption from increasing prices. If your school had a positive balance in its food service, you are exempt from increasing student paid lunch prices and would not need to complete the PLE tool.
So in previous years, you always had to increase it so much, or they
Well,
set a
the
target,
PLE
or-
tool that you fill out tells you what you should increase it for, but there's always been a maximum of 5 cents per year.
Minimum.
No, I don't think you could go over, well,
You
yeah,
could.
minimum of 5 cents. I'm sorry, you're right. Minimum of 5 cents. Because they want to keep you within distance of the federal reimbursement rate, is what they want. But when you have an excess balance and you don't need to,
So essentially, schools that are deficit spending in their food service account, they're telling you, well, then you need to charge more to close the gap, you know?
Yes.
So you can't just keep going 5 cents and keep going backwards on this deal. You need to close the gap a little bit. The fact that you got a surplus exempts you from that particular situation, so. And we have a surplus in there. And we've done what we did last spring to 2 days to try to put a dent in the surplus. So I think our suggestion, Craig, correct me if I'm wrong, is leave the lunch prices the way they are. And
Yes.
we have the latitude to do now that because of,
the only thing we may have to come back and do is we may have to come back
Breakfast.
and change the breakfast. We'll have to see when I get that application done.
Okay, so you need motions on that then?
Yeah, yep,
So I'll accept motion to leave lunch and breakfast prices as is.
yep.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Oh, you moved, right?
I just said I accept a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Pro moved and Turner second. My bad. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. And just so you know, they're at 285 for preschool through 5th grade and 305 for 6th through 12. Additional entrees were $1.25, adults were $4.85. The breakfasts were $2 for students and no matter what age, $2, and then $2.60 for an adult.
So we approved the actual costs, price-wise. So this Monday and Tuesday free meals is in and above, or is that part of that motion too?
No, it was, no, we didn't, I did not have that. This is just,
Correct, to set it.
just a set.
Do you plan to start that way the year, Monday and Friday?
We'll talk about it. I think we'll talk about it again in August. I think as long as you guys are okay with it, I don't, unless something drastically changes when I get done with the annual report. I don't see why we would because our balance right now is still above the 3
So
month operating.
we'd like to send that out so people would know, Craig, at some point.
Yeah, we would do it on, push it through there. Or have them do it when they do their first meetings with the kiddos at that time. Are you guys okay with doing the 2 days for the first month anyway, at least?
We can't build a bigger fund there.
Well, then what we'll do is we'll just do it right away, at least for that, and say we're gonna relook at this after, in a month or two. And when maybe we do that on the 25th, then I'll talk to them guys about how we'll get it out then.
We're looking at Monday and Tuesday again?
Yes, because we have to, because of school. So we can't go Friday.
Right.
Okay. And we'll move on to set preschool fees.
Okay, so the preschool fees one, where we are gonna, I did some research of what daycare costs. And what was it, Pat, when you were in there with me, 285 they were gonna go to? It was one of the lowest, 285 an hour. And I think when you do the math of ours, can't remember off the top of my head now as well. We were 50 cents under that, I think. I think it was $2.30 an hour for preschool at $130 a month, or the 9 payments of $130. So our thought was to suggest to try to get to what the lower end daycares are in town and make it the same, and that'd be about $150 a month. Those is what our recommendation would be for preschool. With the sliding scale like we have in the past that follows the pre-introduced lunch application. So there'd be reduced rates for those as well. For the free and for, if somebody qualifies for reduced lunches, there'd be a lower rate. In the past, it was 78. So I'd have to take and figure out what that ratio was, at which I did not have that done. That dollar amount, but it would go up. I didn't think about that part.
our proposal is to, the increase, the rationale for the increase is to essentially be comparable to what is the lowest price daycare within the Parkston footprint. So that is going to, what we're told by that source, is they were going to that amount, therefore we did the math that increased it from $130 per month to $150 a month, and that is equitable to what the lowest price daycare is in town. And we did survey our neighboring schools on what their preschool costs
Some
are.
more.
We were the cheapest by far. Anybody who charges for preschool, we had the cheapest.
There are a few that it's free, correct? But-
True.
There are.
Yep.
Yep.
There's some that are free.
Yeah, where I came from, it was free.
And this still does not cover our
No,
teacher by far.
Not even close.
because you saw, I mean, a good portion of that 77,000 up there was.
Preschool.
So, okay. Any other thoughts? Good.
Still use the sliding scale, so the free ones will be, I mean, if I remember it, the free was only, on the sliding scale before was under $20 a month for preschool. So that'll go up maybe to 25, you know, whatever the ratio is, percentage wise.
Okay.
So I need a motion to, and it'll be 10 payments again because August is a half, May is a half, the 8 months in between is the full.
Okay.
Do you want the wording in there? In the past, we've had, should the district close due to COVID-19 only, parents will be given the opportunity to continue or discontinue services. If services are discontinued, the district will reimburse at $16.25 per day of closure. That's what we had in the past.
Where did you arrive at that number?
I think that was what, if you took the number of days the kiddos were there. Yep, 108 days, 4 weeks in a month.
Yeah.
And they were here 8 days total,
That's
because
what-
2 days a week, 130 divided by that.
Okay, now you gotta go to 150.
So 150 divided by 8, so that would go to 1875 instead of 1625. Do you want that wording still in there, or do you want to just take it out?
Well, if you leave it in there, I think I would take out the COVID-19 portion, just to have if the school district were closed for.
Well, that's why we put the COVID in there, because because what happens if a snowstorm then? If you take it out and we close for snow, they're gonna want reimbursement. That's why we had the wording COVID only. Because I guarantee you that'll happen.
Well, it already did.
Okay. So read what you got, I guess.
How about,
That's what I mean, do
How
we want that in there
how about
anymore?
global,
Because,
global pandemic rather than actual? Unfortunately.
I mean, in the past, we didn't have any reimbursement in there. We just had 9 payments of 130. We had to change it from 9 to 10 because of the halvesies, because it's hard for people to understand that.
I will tell you, Adam and I have talked, and it's been brought to our attention again. It's a great attention getter. I mean, we've had expression to us that because of our school calendar that we have adopted, when you look at our professional development, early outs is coupled with our teacher development days in relation to our state tournaments and, you know, giving those days off, that we are inequitable on the number of days that the Monday, Wednesday versus Tuesday, Thursday groups go. And we have a plan in order to make sure that that comes back into equitable services. So, and that essentially is taking a look at creating opportunities for that particular group who's getting shortchanged, which I think it's the Monday, Wednesday group, and correct me if I'm wrong, and then going to school on Fridays, you know, in order to stay consistent. So that comes back to the price, because the very first question that was asked in that situation was, am I gonna get my money back? Well, we would rather educate them, you know, and if we have a plan to do that, then, you know, this year, because of the number of days that we missed in respect to school, because of the weather, you know, that's not anything that's, Craig assured me that it hasn't happened in the past. I mean, it is what it is. But I don't know if that's right or if that's wrong. I honestly don't.
And it is the cheapest daycare. that we're charging. It's not like we're charging them an astronomical educational price for the service. And I guess my recommendation maybe is we take that COVID thing out completely, and if the situation happens again, we address it at that time.
Okay.
I agree.
I have no problem with that.
So it would just say to set the price for preschool at 10 payments in the amounts of $65 for August, 150, or no, it wouldn't be 65, I'm sorry, $75 for August, $150 for September through April, and $75 for May. And then we'll get rid of the rest of it. Any other discussion? So I guess I need a motion for that.
So moved.
Moved by Leichner,
Second.
second by Turner. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
This looks confusing.
Well, next one's driver's ed fee, right?
Oh, I skipped ahead.
First.
Sorry.
Now that is,
Great
on your
news.
wording in there though, I'm sorry, Mr. M, I didn't catch that when you typed your blue sheets out. Last year, we paid them 160 per student.
Oh, is that what it was?
It was because it was 110 before. We went from 200 to 250. The whole 50 was for the instructor only
Okay.
cost. So that should, instead of 150, we're not changing anything
No.
from last year. Last year's was 250 and 160 if it goes to the instructor for his services.
Just a misprint.
Yeah, the other 90 goes for gas and insurance and wear and tear on the vehicle.
What I have in your notes is just a misprint.
Yes, yep,
So you're recommending to leave?
Leave
the
that alone.
Driver's.
we just
education fee
changed
as
that
is.
last year from 200 to 250.
Somebody have a motion for that?
So make Mr. Akery good with everything?
Mm-hmm. Because he got a $50
I understand that.
kid jump last
Still
year. I
need
mean,
Still need to be able to do it.
yep, yep. Yeah, he didn't say, he was happy that he got that last year, so, and maybe you could take a look at it next year.
So move.
Moved by Prohl,
Second.
second by Leishner. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Now the art home rates. Yes, Matt, this is confusing. And it is small, I'm sorry to get it thin on one sheet, but this is, so the whole process to come up with these numbers is this spreadsheet here that I handed out tonight, sorry. But I didn't get that in the packet for you either. But this is what we followed every year. You take the codes, the disability codes, and the rates that are set by the state there in the upper left-hand corner. So there's 6 different levels that a student can qualify under. And then the state aid funding for those levels are that next column. Okay? And then when you divide, I think if you divide that, I don't know, the 39, I'm going to bring up the actual calculation on my computer so I can see the.
So Mr. M, does our home, whatever we say, they'll just do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just asking.
Yep.
And it's not like the reason why we do it this way is because this is what those other schools are getting paid for those kids.
It's a wash.
Yeah. Because this only comes into play for the kiddos that are not, that are placed, I think, by a certain way. I think it's called parent placed or whatever. So it amounts to about 6 kids a year at a time, maybe.
They're currently placed with their students that are on IEPs.
Yeah.
That we have
Yes,
to
there you
serve.
go.
And then those districts in which their home districts are
Are
they
getting the
get
funding
They get the funding for it, and then we turn around and charge those districts
for that.
based on this model.
And this is the calculation to get that, yeah.
Gotcha.
And it's general fund portion and sped portion.
It's kind of a
Okay.
flow through.
Yep. So
So that first column is the total dollars.
like if a kid, like the 69.
If
yeah.
he's a level 1, the state identifies that as $6,989. That's the amount that
state aid
for
you would
sped
get.
state aid on that level category.
So then what's the
1.
39.94 and the 42.65?
That's what I was trying. That's what I was gonna. I think it's on a per day basis and stuff,
Oh,
but I can't.
Yeah,
That's what I'm trying to get up here, you see how that calculation. Yep, it's B5, which is the 6989 divided by 175.
Okay.
Yep,
so that's what, that 8259 on the kid who's disability, or category, disability category 1,
Okay.
that's what we've turned around.
yeah. Yep. But then there's also this overhead cost adjustment over there, Mr. M.
Yeah.
That's why it ends up being 8780.
Yep.
And that's all based on the state aid formula calculator that's set by the state. Because everybody's student-teacher ratio is different, everybody's overhead cost adjustment and things like that are, yeah, so we're going based off ours. Comes up to 8780 for level 1, so those are the box in the middle, that's the rates, the total there,
We charge. We will
that we're
charge.
gonna, yeah, approve.
R20,
And this is the past years.
Yes, yep,
so that little box, Craig, correct me if I'm wrong, see in the middle of the page?
I just didn't have the total there, I'm sorry.
Is that, no, but
The
is,
past year's ones, I didn't have the total column, I'm sorry.
is that box though what we're charging for this year?
This upcoming year, this is the rates that
So we're up
we're.
in the upper right-hand corner. Well, my point is, it says proposed 22, 23, that's last year, that should say 23, 24, our home tuition rates, correct?
Right here.
You see that? Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine, I wanna make sure we're looking at the right box.
Yes, I'm sorry, I just didn't change
So a
it.
level 1 kid, we were charging 87.
Yeah, and it's the shaded area, those are the rates, the
Yes.
87, 80, 136, 87, 162, 99.
Okay.
We still anticipate 30-some kids there.
Yeah, the last conversation, we did not have a July meeting. It was supposed to happen this week. I was out in Pier, so I think there were several others that could not make that. But they have been holding steady. They are right now, Mr. Knipling, just by chance, or even Miss Van Hookry there, they're running around 30 plus, I think.
Yeah, in June, I had 18 kids, and Miss Bartelt had, I think, 13 or 14.
So that was 31 then.
We just
Yeah.
added another one this week too,
And,
plus another one at the start of July. So yeah,
and they're maxed out at,
33. I
they're
think.
maxed out at 36. They can't have any more than that.
They're at either 33 or 34
Yes,
at the
36 is
moment.
high.
So, which is a good thing, because all during COVID, because of COVID, they were running low 20s, so they were far cry from what their maximum was, so.
Okay, anything else to add to that? Or
No.
Pretty cut and dry?
Well,
Yeah.
Once you get through it?
once you get all the numbers plugged back in right for the new year, yeah.
Okay.
Then it all calculates for me.
Anybody have any questions?
So that gray shaded boxes are the 6 levels you're approving with this motion.
So I'll accept a motion to approve the 23, 24 our home tuition rates as proposed.
Yeah, there you go.
Second.
Moved by Pearl, second by Turner. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Okay, one left, Dave. G.
That's the ballot thing, right?
Yeah.
I guess for me, I will kind of rely on you guys on this. I don't really know any of these people, so.
You're asking for a recommendation, and these are Division 3 and Division 1 reps, and they are both principals that are sitting on the board, will sit on the board of directors, board of directors out at the Activity Association. The Division 1, do we care? Not necessarily. They're gonna look towards, their own categorical schools at that point, but still they represent everybody. I do not know Dan or Krista, but I do know Ryan Rollinger, and he's a great guy. He's been the principal at Harrisburg now for I think 6 years. So very kid-minded. You had a chance to read their bios. I mean, if you needed a recommendation, I would suggest that you recommend that you give Ryan an opportunity on that for the Division 1 rep, and then the Division 3 rep. I do not know Jeff. They're both bios in there, but I do know Adam. Worked with Adam while he was a superintendent in Marion. had a couple interactions with him, and he's been at Madison now, I think, what, for the better part of, did he say 10 years now? Pretty close, if I remember right. I don't know if he actually stated it in there now, but, both of them, good guys, years of experience there. I think they both have something to offer to the process, but my recommendation would be Adam and Ryan. So you got something different, by all means, I don't think we're gonna be losing out on any, so.
Anybody else have any thoughts?
When I read through the bios, those are the same two that I came up with, so.
So I will make a motion to vote for Adam Shaw from Madison High School for District 3.
Division 3.
Division 3. And Ryan Rollinger from Harrisburg for Division 1.
So Matt made the motion, and I need a second.
Second.
Second by Turner, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
All right, we will take a recess for 5 minutes and return in executive session.
He just signed